Hey, this is Taylor here. We are doing Mountaineering 101. I'm here in Cougar, Washington. No big cats, middle-aged women on the prowl, or, well, there is Sasquatch here. We're going to talk about all the gear you need, all the things to expect for an amazing adventure, how to find a great guide, and more.
Boots on dusty trails again, eyes on peaks that touch the sky. Feel the earth shake under feet, gotta climb before I die. Mount St. Helens, smoke and ash, Volcanoes' wrath left its scar. Memories of fire and ash, but we journeyed near and far. Climbing mountains high, till the Cascades reach the sky. Mount Rainier, we sing our cry. Glacier Peak, don't pass us by.
So, how did I even get into mountaineering? I'm from Kansas. It's totally flat, except for maybe there's Mount Sunflower, which some people do learn to ski on. Here in the Pacific Northwest, we usually start at 4,000 or 5,000 feet and then have a 1,000-foot gain a mile as we go up to the 8, 10, 12, 14,000 feet up Mount Rainier. Like everyone in Seattle, you look at the dating profiles and it says I'm into hiking and dogs and IPAs. Well, I at least got into hiking. Really getting into snowshoeing with REI, signing up for every possible trip that I could go on to and have a few beers, gluten-free in my case, and then you have a blast kind of hiking through all the different types of snowy terrain, better than you would even see on Instagram. And I kept hearing about what are the other things you could do to go to the next level, and one of them was hearing about Camp Muir, like John Muir or Muir Woods in California, and that's the base camp on Rainier. You would then have this long hike there to Camp Muir to be able to see all the neighboring peaks if you've got great weather, and then if you're doing that overnight summit attempt where you wake up and give it a try. I wanted to do something like that before I would summit Rainier. We really recommend you do Mount Baker first as a training mountain. It's one of the snowiest mountains in the lower 48 states, usually does the snowiest, and that's where you can do a 2 or 3 day training where you learn the different skills of mountaineering, like self-arrest with an ice axe, where you flip around and dig the ice axe into the snow. I recommend doing Camp Muir as that kind of prep hike to see if you're in physical shape, to have enough cardio, enough strength, you're comfortable enough in your gear and your boots and that sort of thing, so you're used to that level of alpine hiking with that level of gain. So you're going up usually about 1,000-foot elevation gain per mile up here in the Pacific Northwest. So can you take that kind of strength from your quads and everything like that in your knees coming back down, and are you able to have a good time? You can learn different techniques on how to rope up, how the different knots work in mountaineering. They're certainly learnable and doable by most of us that are relatively fit and that can kind of train for a mountain and practice. There are a ton of volcanoes in Washington, Oregon, and California. So up here we have Mount Adams, Mount Baker, Mount Rainier, and Mount St. Helens, the volcano that erupted in 1980. I actually just did that last year, had an absolute blast. You can go with the Mount St. Helens Institute, which is an incredible group of guides and volunteers, and they will get you up there safely just within the day and come right back down. It's kind of a unique position for a mountain to be in because you can see over the edge into the volcano. Another benefit of a guided mountain climbing with the group is really getting to know each other and coming together to be able to reach that common goal. You really do rapidly figure out a lot about each other and bond in a different way when you have something that intense, that team building. In a challenging scenario with different pieces of gear, different routes, different mountains, different personalities, and coming together in a stressful environment to achieve that goal is something that's incredibly fun You bond with your new mountaineer friends. It's a great experience that's very connecting. I've been with 4 different guiding services. Mount Rainier has the 2 specific ones that you'll hear about. So you'll book a guide, months out, 6 months out, a year maybe for Mount Rainier or more. There are a limited number of permits for each mountain in most cases. It's important you research the mountain you want to climb and what guiding services are available. Some mountains allow only a certain set of paid guides and some allow more. So climbing a mountain, you'll usually start at 4,000 or 5,000 feet, hike up to 8,000 or 9,000 feet. It really depends on the type of mountain, where there might be a low camp, and then you'll set up all your gear. This really depends on whether you're on one of those schedules where it's a learning schedule or whether it's the more rapid fire go to the summit schedule. So if it's the rapid fire one, you're waking up at like 2, 3 in the morning, putting on a headlamp, putting on a smaller pack, and then going to the summit and making it up there, hopefully successful as you work your way through the dark, and then it's bright up at the summit, and then you're getting back down there as soon as you can. So the reason you do that is the sun melts ice and snow, and it becomes slippery, and also more danger of avalanches or more danger of crevasses opening up. That is why we do it early, like 3-day or longer schedule. Starting at the trailhead, you are at like 4,000 or 5,000 feet, and then you're making it all the way up that crazy elevation gain, 1,000 foot per mile, making it up to the 8,000 foot for El Dorado Peak that I'm going to. That kind of thing where you've got that much of a stretch of elevation gain per mile. Kind of want to break it up. Get there that first night, hike in, get all your gear, get your tent set up, have a nice dinner of rehydrated hiking food or whatever else your guides may have brought. Some like to bring a little bit of fresh food, not too common up here in the Pacific Northwest. Or if you're staying an extra night, so after you summit, come back down to camp, watch sunset, soak in the amazing rays of sun as you bask in your achievement of glory. So summit day usually begins pretty darn early. So we're talking 2, 3 in the morning. Get out of your tent, grab a coffee as soon as you possibly can, and then get going in the dark, depending on the weather. Definitely check the weather first, make sure your conditions are good. Your guide will be doing that for you, and then you will be going up the mountain to reach the summit, and hopefully reaching that, and then you're able to enjoy a good view. It might have to burn off a little bit of that fog up there so you can get some good pictures, and then head back down to camp. It's another reason why you really do need to bring glacier glasses, because it is so bright that you'll get snow blindness, but it will also melt the snow. So melting the snow is a problem. Why? Because of obviously avalanches, crevasses opening up, those cavities that can suck you in there hundreds of feet, and also slippery. So it's a little bit harder to move around like that. So you want to get up and down for that 11:30, 12 p.m. sort of time frame where that is the most intense, and you'll probably encounter the most issues. But obviously local conditions, local mountains, all those things, trust your guide and also verify. I do have a story on that, on trust and verify the guide. My very first mountain summit attempt on Mount Baker, which was an absolutely amazing experience. But on that first summit trip with our guides, they checked the weather and saw that the next day, which we planned to do the summit, was not looking good on the weather. So they decided to rush snow school on that first day and get that done as quickly as they could. The problem is, by the time snow school was over and we were summiting, it was fairly late in the day, which is absolutely not recommended. Do not do that. We did see a lot of avalanches coming down the side of the mountain, but the icefall was very directly coming towards us, and the guys were like, we haven't seen this in our 25-year career. So that's a little concerning to hear. Looking at this ice chunk, it's moving towards us. I'm hearing that kind of loud crackly noise, and basically thinking yeah, okay. I'm roped up with the team, thinking at what point do I just cut this thing off, pull off the carabiner, and take my last Instagram and say, see ya. Luckily, there was a lip to the hill. The big thing slowed down, we kind of looked at each other, and then continued the summit attempt. We ended up getting pretty far up there to the summit and having a good day and making it back down. But I do not recommend going late. Do not do it. Each mountain has its own personality, and also the mountains change over the summer. So if you go up mid-May, May 15th, kind of the first climb of the season, obviously covered in snow. One amazing benefit to that is you can glissade on your ass right down to the parking lot for the most part, although you need to make sure you're not glissading right over a cliff. So make sure you're careful not to have your ice axe in a weird spot. I love that the best. It saves my knees. It's phenomenal. At the end of the summer, which can happen between June and September, depending on all the heat that it might experience, Mount Rainier was nearly naked except for the very top that always stays covered in the glacier on June 6th after a few of those 100+ degree days. That summer, I was actually on Mount Shasta in California. It was completely dry except for the very top, which was really disappointing because I planned a June 6th summit so that way it would be snowy and I would avoid those kind of volcanic rocks and slipping on the scree, because I don't find that as enjoyable. It was still an incredible experience, and being able to get up there was amazing. I actually didn't get any altitude sickness on Mount Shasta, even though it's over 14,000 feet. However, I cheated. After climbing Mount Adams, which really isn't even that high up, I decided I didn't want to feel that way again because I looked at the blood oxygen level on my watch. Well, I'm doing so hot, felt a little queasy, came back down a little bit, and I was okay, but I didn't want to repeat that. I did have a prescription medicine for it. It's kind of weird, makes you pee a lot, but if you have to have it, that's an awesome tool for you. I did hear that the University of Colorado Aurora was doing some sort of testing in South America, and that blood cells that your body generates when you're up there to acclimate for a number of days, that they stay with you for maybe over a month. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Science people go validate that. What I decided to do was go to Utah and stay at a timeshare in shoulder season, acclimate my body, do some hikes up there in elevation for about a week, and see if that helped. And it absolutely did. After a couple of days of just being like super tired and getting that out of my system, and my body was able to respond and had an absolute blast. What they don't tell you about on a lot of these mountains are your campsites are not these beautiful forested ones that you would see. You are super exposed in a lot of them. Some of them have these really cool giant volcanic rocks that are arranged around to block some of the wind. Like Mount Adams, for example, it feels like the wind is going to rip you off the top of the earth, and it is crazy. I got maybe 7 minutes of sleep that night, but you make sure your tents are spiked down in the way that they can be. That is a rocky area, so if you can't get the spikes to the ground, you have to use rocks and wrap rope around it in the way that your guide would suggest, so that way your tent doesn't shoot off into the sky. And some of these mountains do not have great data communication service. What a lot of us carry are Garmin inReaches that use the 90s style Motorola StarTAC satellites, and these are going to be changing rapidly now as they come out with some new satellite devices. Obviously, Starlink and others are going to completely change this game, but for now we have these, which are great for SOSs to get a helicopter out there for search and rescue if you need it. These are pretty fun. So the Garmin's, you can set up preset messages. I have 3. I'm getting going on the mountain sort of message with a link to a map so you can see my path on the route. You can also do this and get a smaller one for the inReach Mini, and you can even get a scuba case for that for some of your other adventures. For those of you who have a love language of spreadsheets, like Google Sheets, it is a great way to organize your gear list. So the trip you sign up for will almost definitely have a gear person that sends out an email, or even on the page to sign up for the trip, you'll see an equipment list or a gear list and suggestions for buying, renting, and what is also team gear or group gear. So sometimes you'll be expected to divvy up that group gear. So someone will take the stove, fuel canisters, and the pots and pans, distribute the food as well. If it's a group food situation, sometimes you'll take your own meals, your own dehydrated packs like you'd see at REI and that sort of thing. This is going to end up being probably a 35 to 55 pound pack. It's going to be on you. So you want to make sure you have the support in that pack with that waist belt so you can distribute it in the right way to your body with that clip across there. And there's all sorts of gear. So it's nice to have a sort of Google Sheet that you can print out. I color code it by that category, going from top to bottom on my body, from head all the way to your base layer, mid layer, your outer layers, and that sort of thing. If you're a beginner, or if you're just traveling from somewhere else and you want to bring the gear, I do recommend renting a good amount of the gear from that group. But if you're going to be doing this every year for a number of years like I am, you can start with that and then start adding in. For me, every year I've at least rented a few things. Finally got the last few things like a helmet and water bottles, your own spork for cooking utensils, your own headlamp. And for critical things, there's a saying in the outdoor sort of world that 1 is none and 2 is 1. You don't want 2 of everything, but if it's something that's super important, maybe like a headlamp, and you have extra batteries, then it might be a good idea to have a backup. Make sure you do not forget everything, so use that checklist as a checklist the morning of as well. Usually your guides will have a final gear walkthrough, so they set it out on a tarp or a warehouse, wherever you might be, and make sure that you have everything you need, because it is a no-go to get to the summit if you do not have something like glacier glasses that wrap around. That way you don't get that blinding snow in your eyes and have a lot of issues. In the outdoor industry, you'll hear this a lot with type 1, 2, and 3 fun. So type 1 fun, having a blast, going to the amusement park, doing whatever, watching a movie, that's type 1 fun. Type 2 fun, super challenging in the moment. Every step you're just like, oh my gosh, what did I sign up for? I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm not sure I'm gonna make it, but it's super rewarding. And when you're done, you're like, wow, I can't believe I achieved that. I made it to the top of that mountain. I did what I didn't think was possible. This is incredibly rewarding. I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life. Type 3 fun is like, this is miserable. It wasn't fun at all. I don't want to do it again. Let's not repeat this. So we're going to try more for type 2 fun. You got to be careful that you have prepared enough so that it is not type 3. Why climb a mountain? Well, I thought it was something impossible, at least to me. I'm a big fan of those National Geographic or BBC Planet Earth type moments where you're in your life and you're like, I can't believe I'm really in this moment right now. It looks like I am someone that is on TV. Being able to see those incredible vistas, incredible landscapes, looking at all the different types of snow and rock and looking out to see the other mountains in the same range, it is just something that is just awe-inspiring and incredible. And it just makes me feel alive. You know, like most sports, everyone wants to sort of climb to do taller and taller mountains or more and more technical mountains where you're practicing more of those skills. That's one thing. It might be for someone. For me, I actually just love the incredible views. I love the challenge. I don't necessarily have to get better and better at those different skills. I'm in it for the pointy mountain and the views. I'm in it for the gram, really just for the personal growth, and that's fun for me. So whatever it is for you, I hope you find what you're looking for. It's a lifetime of adventures. You can climb all around the world, and especially here in the Pacific Northwest, it's super accessible. There's so many supportive resources. There's so much knowledge. You want to know about avalanches. The Northwest Avalanche Center has an incredible website. They do an intro training that I did that's easy. You can do online sometimes. You have REI that has the outdoor school that has incredible classes on snowshoeing and getting to Camp Muir and other hikes you can do. And you have a wealth of guide services around this area. So many to help you get there, as well as like the Mountaineers Club and others. It's got this incredible history. I know it may seem impossible. I definitely thought it was. But after having done 4 and about ready to do my 5th one, I think it's an absolutely incredible experience that you will remember the rest of your life, and something that really changes you as a person in such a good way. I can't recommend it enough. So good luck on your adventures, wherever they might take you.
All right, smash that like button, hit subscribe for more adventures around the globe.